Welcome to the Leading Conversations podcast, sponsored by the Excel Leadership Network. On each episode, JD Pairing will have conversations with church planting pastors and leaders from around the country. You can learn more about how to connect with Excel at the end of this podcast. Let's join JD now and listen in on this leading conversation.
Welcome to another Leading Conversations podcast with Excel Leadership Network. Today we are thrilled to have Julian and Daisy Delmore from Alabama with us. Welcome, guys. Hey, let's just start out. You're in Alabama, and I was talking to Julian about this. So are you War Eagle or are you Roll Tide? Which is it?
I'm favoring on Roll Tide, Alabama.
Okay, but what are you, Julian?
The Ohio State Buckeye.
Yeah, somebody, an Ohio State fan living in Alabama. That's like cross-cultural.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and you guys are new to Alabama.
Yes.
How long have you been there?
A little over a year and a half now, almost two.
So does Julian wear his like Ohio State garb out and about, or?
No, he don't want to start any fights out here.
I wouldn't make it out the driveway.
Hey,
he do over a family friend house. He'll wear it sometimes or talk about it a lot.
Yeah, but you don't want to do that. Not from the pulpit either. People will reject God and everything. So
yeah.
Let's start with this. Tell us how each of you tell us how you came to Christ. Just growing up, how you committed your life to Jesus.
Okay. Well, you want to start off? Well, I'll go ahead and start. I am from Chicago suburbs, and my family origin is Catholic originally. My grandmother was Catholic, and she, brought us to Sunday school or Saturday school. I remember going to. But then after she died, nobody in our family raised us, in church or anything. And so, needless to say, I was raised by my aunt, who did the best she can. She was a single mother herself, and I was her sister died, my mom died, so she was raising me, and it was just really a struggle because we was like in a matriarchal home, and we had aunts and cousins and brothers and siblings and just a lot of people in one house, and so it was a struggle growing up for me. And then when I was in high school, I joined, all the sports. I've been, try to keep my grades up. But then at 17, I found myself pregnant, and I graduated early, but there I was having a child at early age. And so I was really feeling depressed about that. And I remember, my aunt who raised me wasn't really nice to me during that time. And so I remember praying to God because my grandmother taught us to pray. And I just said, God, please help me out of this situation as far as living with my aunt. And I want to stay focused. I went to junior college to start, but I really want to do something with my life. I don't want to be a statistic. And I remember praying that prayer. And the next day, a friend of mine from college who I went to school with and sports with, she invited me to go to Southern Illinois University. And she said, have you ever thought about going to university? I said, well, yeah, but I have a child. And she said, well, they have non-traditional students there. And, I'll bring you the application and go ahead and apply. And, and so I remember praying and asking God, for a change. And that was the start of that change. But before I found out I was accepted at the university, I remember hearing the Lord tell me to go to church, get up and go to church. It was a Sunday morning, and my aunt, nobody went to church in the house, and she was just saying, where are you going? And I said, well, I'm going to church. And I walked around the block with my baby in a stroller and sat down at a church called Second Baptist. And I never forget, I didn't know what that man was talking about, but I started to leave, but I didn't. And when the end of the service, I heard they started singing a song, Come to Jesus. And I gave my heart to Christ that day. And I just could say that I found out right after that I got accepted to Southern Illinois University, and I went away to school, and the Lord just took my life from there and transformed my life from day to day, moment to moment. It was like a personal relationship encounter with him, like he was my parent, because I didn't have anybody else. And so from that point on, he introduced me to a gospel choir on campus, believe it or not. And I joined that choir, and I got introduced to, churches, and I joined another Baptist church originally. And I just grew from there. So I felt like the Lord always had a plan for my salvation. And that's,
That's an
history.
amazing story. Just God help me, and he did. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, how about you, Julian?
All right. Well, I'm the other end. I grew up in Southern Illinois, in the country. We didn't go to church much. My father, I don't think he was a believer. I'm pretty sure he wasn't a believer because I never seen him in church. My mom, she would pray with us, but we never, like I said, we never went to church. So growing up as a kid, I didn't have a lot of church except what was on TV, Billy Graham and stuff like that. You see it on TV. So as I got older, I graduated, I went in the military, and I had a friend when I was in basic asked me that I wanted to come to church with him. I was like, I guess I'll go. He was like, what denomination are you? I said, Christian. He said, no, what denomination? I said, I'm a Christian. See, I didn't know that there were different denominations. I just thought, hey, it's just one, we all the same. But, it was a Baptist I went to, and I was like, ooh, this is different, and I went there a couple of times. After I got out of the military, I came home, and my mom was started going to a church. And, I had not the greatest experience at that church, and I stopped going. And then, I met somebody, and they talked to me into going to a different church. And I started going there. And when I started going to that church, I had a really good new membership teacher. And I met my new membership teacher first. Oh. I had a really good new membership teacher. And and
was it you, Daisy?
Yeah, it was me.
Oh,
while she was out, she wasn't there. I accepted Christ on Mother's Day, and I was saved, and I gave my life to the Lord.
So you guys met at the church there, and Daisy was Daisy teaching this new members class?
Yes.
Wow. Did you immediately fall in love, or what happened? How'd you guys? No, that was quick.
I actually told her I'll never marry anyone with kids.
Well, I was at a place in my life that I wasn't really interested in dating. I was trying to stay focused on the Lord. And I knew his family already. I didn't know him, but I knew his mom. I had met her and had worked with her at the Women's Center. And I knew some of his brothers. He has 9 siblings. There's 9 of them. So, but I had already knew, and me and his sister was really close friends, one of his sisters. So he knew that I knew his family. So he felt comfortable talking to me. And so that's how our relationship began to develop. We knew he knew that I knew his family. So we talked and often, and we became really good friends. He did tell me I would never date somebody with kids, and I said, great, because I don't want to date anybody anyway. And we was just really good friends. And I didn't know that God already had a plan for us. So you're gonna have that, Julian. How did that come about?
Okay, well, go for it.
Prayer. I mean, God sends people in your life for a reason. And we were both going through something at the time. Mm-hmm. And, it seemed right where, when I wasn't strong in an area, Daisy was, and when she needed strength in a different area, I was good at. So we worked it well together. It just seemed like that's what we were supposed to be together.
And the pastor was so grateful being a single person in his church. He seemed so grateful that Julian was wanting to get married. And so we went through the counseling with him, and it was very short. He had been married 35 years. at least. But he gave us 3 sessions. And, and he was like, great, y'all get married. And so a year later, I was like, Pastor, how did you not tell me it was so much more to the marriage than the 3 sessions of do he got a job and do he, is he willing to provide? And he was like, and he started laughing. And so I said, because he forgot to sign our marriage license. So I said, does that mean the whole year I wasn't married? I could have got out of it? No. He started laughing. He said, no. But yeah, so God had a plan from the beginning.
So that sounds pretty interesting. I'm looking at you, Julian. You've got kind of an interesting look on your face. Like, I didn't know she wanted to be out of the marriage there. But,
well, I didn't tell him that. No.
Hey, talk about, so how did you guys get involved in ministry then?
Well, for me, I was already in ministry. Started ministry because when I said I was in a gospel choir, that was ministry. And then when I joined the church, I started off as an usher, and I, continued to do that for a year or so. And then I became a new members teacher. And then from that point on, it just seems like God just, elevated us. We ended up transitioning churches. Once that pastor moved, he ended up leaving and going to a different church, getting promoted and moved up north, Chicago. And so we ended up transitioning to a different church. And we just continued to grow, stay in church, raise our kids in church, and, grow in that way, serve the Lord.
All right. If you might, you might notice a trend that me and Daisy starts off on 2 different ends every time. Daisy's a lefty, I'm a righty. Chicago, she's the north, I'm the south. She started off a teacher and this and that. I was working, I was like doing cleanup and like the janitor pretty much.
I started a counselor, not a teacher.
No, I'm talking with the church though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I started off as a janitor pretty much. So I was doing all the manual labor, I went to all the Bible studies and this and that, but I was also doing like the other end of the spectrum. And, yeah. So that's what he's asked about our Christian walk. Yeah. So that's how I started. I started doing that, and then I worked my way up, and that's how I got, going to the Bible studies, praying for people, going out to do evangelism and outreach with the
homeless. Actually.
Yes. So I went, a different direction than Daisy, but we managed to work it all together.
Now, how did you guys get to the Northwest? That's kind of a detour. How did that happen?
So,
her brother lives out there.
Yeah. So my brother, he was a director of a youth facility, a group home, and they had many group homes, and they needed a therapist to come and work with them, with their kids. And so I was in between jobs at the time. And so I was really ready for a change from being in Southern Illinois. I had got my bachelor's, my master's, and I had worked there, and we had just, was ready for a change, and they really needed somebody. And so his boss was willing to pay for us to move and transfer us to Washington. So that's how we ended up here.
There.
Well, there, yeah.
Here, there. So you were in the Northwest for quite a while, right?
Yeah, 17 years.
Yeah.
Wow. And so you're doing ministry together. How'd you get the church planting bug?
Oh, yeah. So I started in missions as a missions pastor. And, during that time, God began to put on our heart. Julian joined me in some of our, mission trainings and meetings. And we just got a fire under our feet concerning going out and reaching the world for Jesus. And it just seemed like the passion was there. And before you know it, we both was thinking, you know what? God is showing us church planting. We went to a training in in Washington, and they were talking about church planners. They even had a couple people speak concerning church planning. And it just, Julian and I both was like, that's what we're supposed to be doing.
And it's through our growth, we help start other churches with other people.
Yeah.
So we seen some stuff. Now, we didn't see everything because, being a pastor, everything was going on behind the doors. Yeah. But, we helped other pastors start churches and stuff. So we kind of thought that we knew, we thought that we knew everything.
We thought.
Yeah, we thought. But, there's a lot of things that come along with it that, you don't know until you get in it.
Yeah.
But,
now, and so you decided to plant a church. Where in the world did Alabama come from?
Well, the Lord really put that on my heart first. I would have never thought Alabama either. I have a cousin here that I met just like 4 years ago, and I came to visit for the first time after, I think it was like the second year of COVID when it was supposed to be a breakthrough. And so I finally came to visit Alabama. And while I was here, I heard the Lord say, this is where I want your first church plant. And I'm like, what? And I kind of ignored it. And then I just felt like, God, why would, I was starting to question it. So when I came back to Washington, I said, well, Lord, I have to share that with Julian, and you got to give him that if that's the case, because I wanted to go to Africa for my first church plant. I always felt like I was going to go back to Africa. And then I said, Lord, you have to, I'm telling Lord, if that's the case, then, these things have to be confirmed and confirmed again. And sure enough, I feel like we went to every revival I went to. It's just like prophetically, people were speaking and they were saying, God is getting ready to send you out. And this is, nobody said Alabama, but God told me when I was in prayer time and Julian that this is time for us to go and get out of the box, and Alabama is where I want you to start. And now that we've been here, I see why. It's just as foreign to us as it is Africa.
Once again, we started that on two different ends. You know where I was being told in my mind, in my heart, spirit?
Where?
Hawaii. There's lots of chickens on the beach that need sweaters. We could have went up there and ministered to them. Love some Hawaii.
But I didn't want to. That wasn't the place. Alabama wasn't where I would have chosen. And so I did ask God. I said, well, if you confirm that with Julian, and even though I know he said that's where he said I didn't change my mind about Alabama. He confirmed that. I was looking for Julian to say, I ain't moving to Alabama, or no, God didn't show him that, or I was looking for the pastors of our church to say, but everybody just lined up with what God's confirmation was. And they said, yes, they were surprised at Alabama too. And so here we are.
Wow. Well, you're in Bessemer?
Bessemer.
What is that like?
We literally just moved in the town of Bessemer. And being in is totally different. Every city is different. We were living in Helena, Alabama, driving to Bessemer. It's totally different. It's primarily culturally African-American. And it's just trying to connect with people. People are not the most trusting in this area. They want to get to know you first. And sure. And because they got so many churches here, it seemed like they're very suspicious of people. And so building rapport here, getting to know people is very important compared to the culture we come from. And that's what's been, our biggest challenge is allowing people to, getting to know people and them trusting that we're not just any other church, but that we're here for God's work and to join alongside them. We're not here to take anything away, because they're very protective here about their, I just noticed the leaders and the people here, are very protective of the area, their churches, and they want to know why you're here.
Right.
Wow. Yeah. And you guys are bivocational, right?
Yes, yes.
What are you doing?
So that wasn't always the plan for both of us to be, but I've been a therapist, so I started off doing counseling, and now I'm actually not in counseling because the Lord kind of directed me. Outside of that, I kept getting migraine headaches, and so now I'm trying something new in sales.
And I work in a warehouse at Mercedes.
At Mercedes.
Yeah.
Good. Well, and tell us just, how is it going? You haven't been there very long. How's it going? How are you guys feeling about things?
Well,
Not go.
okay.
It's going, slow. It's not, like where we used to in Washington. You could go out, you could fellowship, and just bring them in. Like here, it's different. We go out, we try to talk to people, and they're nice, but it's like nice and keep you at a distance. So, I mean, it's being able to communicate to them, like she was saying, communicate with them and let them know that we're here to do God's will. We're not here to, take you away from your life and change you. You're unsaved, we're going to change you, but, God's going to say, we're going to speak into you. But it's different, it's just people tend to stay to themselves more. You don't see them out. And Birmingham's the only city I've seen in my life that you go to at 8 o'clock and there ain't nothing moving at night. It's like a ghost town. I mean, for this to be they're one of the major cities, it's nothing going on. From 6 o'clock on, you won't hardly see nobody out. It's different.
Although Bessemer is also a city that's full of violence, it's amazing because it's like, when do they do this violence? It must be in the middle of the night.
Where are they at? I mean, seriously.
But it is really known for its gun violence, young people. It's really bad in that area. Single moms is really a ton of single moms out here, and that's a crisis. Not just when I say a crisis, it means they are having to find ways to support single moms. Even Birmingham, they've got grants to support, single mothers, and that's just a big area here.
And mental health.
Yes.
That's a big one. I mean, we talked to a judge and they're just looking for help.
For support,
because they have so many problems here with the mental health issue. They don't know what to do with the people. When they come to the court, they have no clue what to do with the people.
And so that's what we were working on, to try to support the city by the needs that they have. So we've talked to judges and, city council. We're part of the chamber, and we've got feedback on what the needs are in the city. And that's the area that I feel like, God, now that we're stationed here, we really could start to see about how God wants us to make impact.
Right.
Yeah.
And prayer, we really need to read what we decided for going into the new year is to just revamp, because I really feel like we weren't getting a lot of traction. We'll get a little traction and then it's no traction. So we really we're going to pray and together and see what God says. What do he want us to do as far as the next steps for this next season? Because we want to be effective here, and just being a church is not going to do it. They have a lot of churches. You really we have the mind that we came here to do what God wanted for the city. And he showed us that it was crime, that it was people who are struggling with mental illness, and a lot of crisis that people are hiding. They don't want to share what they're really going through. And we're here to help and bring change to this alongside of those who are working hard. There's either really big churches here or it's really small churches, and they don't really cross cities, very
protective of each other, of themselves.
Of their areas. Yes.
Don't cross the boundary line.
Wow. Well, we're glad that you're there. We're glad that you've stepped into a really tough area. You mentioned for your first church plant, does this mean you're going to go do it again?
Yeah. I feel like I did pray and I said, well, Lord, I thought it was Africa. We thought that you were going to send us to Gambia. And he said, you'll get there. eventually, but we got to start here.
And you got to spend some time in Hawaii too on the way, right?
Well, Julian definitely is advocating for Hawaii. God hasn't told me that.
Lots of people need prayer in Hawaii. Lots of them. I mean, standing in that sun, not doing, what they're supposed to do. Hey.
Well, we know the prices there are really high.
That means they'll get lots of tires.
Well, hey, here's the last question. If each of you give us a leadership tip. This podcast is for leaders. What's your leadership tip?
For me, what I would say is what the Lord's been showing me, that this is a time that we're to walk by faith, no matter what you see happening or not happening in church planning, that you have to live by faith, or else you might as well get out of the arena. And that's when I say walk and live by faith, really focusing on what is the Lord saying, no matter what it looks like, and do what God says to do, and stand on his word and not on what we see, not on fear or what other churches are doing or other pastors are doing, but really live by his faith.
Me, it's don't get in your emotions. There are going to be good days, there are going to be bad days, but you have to, keep the faith, continue to read, talk to someone about, those times that are hard, because they're going to come. We all have our bad days, because you could go in front of a church and not have anyone there one Sunday, and you can have the best word, but hey, you got to keep your head up, keep smiling, keep preaching, keep speaking, and keep motivated, because eventually God will work it out. I mean, we do this for him, and he won't let us fail.
And no matter how tough it's been, I've talked to pastors who said the biggest thing is that many people quit after the first 2 years if they're not getting a lot of traction, and they give up. But in Jesus, he never encouraged people to quit. The disciples had to continue going forth, no matter when they were persecuted or whatever they went through. And we have to have the same faith that the disciples before us had, the heroes of faith had. We have to continue that journey, and that's what we're doing. And we want to encourage other leaders that starting out like we are to do it, not to have the expectation that it's just going to all go well in the beginning.
I mean, I tell people this, and pastors and everyone, we should have the same faith we have in the morning when we get up and hit that light switch. It's going to work every morning.
Well, that's a great tips. Thank you for your perseverance. Thank you for doing something hard, and thank you so much for being with us today.
God bless you. And thank you guys for your prayers and support as well.
God bless you.
Thanks for joining the Leading Conversations podcast. We hope that you found it both helpful and encouraging. At Excel Leadership Network, our focus is on the church planter rather than the church. If you'd like to find out more about us, visit our webpage at excelnetwork.org. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. See you next time with another Leading Conversation.